face. Look at that face. Hey, what's up, y'all? Lupe here with another edition of Super Facts. Another edition of Super Facts. Got a little time before I go to the movies. To go see Black Panther. Ooh, if I go see Black Panther, I'm excited. I am excited to see Black Panther. So, sorry for taking so long with this here edition of Super Facts. I had a lot to do since the last time we did Super Facts, and I wanted to make sure that I had like enough time to really talk to y'all like properly. It ain't gonna go for too long. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all got things to do. So shout out to everybody that checked in. But super special shout out to everybody that actually sent their questions to my DMs and hit me on the comments. I spent some time going through them, looking at the ones that I felt comfortable answering, and I actually had a little bit of knowledge about. So I just want to clarify some things really quickly in terms of the super facts. I really don't give advice, like music advice. You know, so if you're a musician and you're asking about like advice in terms of like the business or what type of music that you make, I really don't give that type of advice. I stopped doing that like a while ago, unless it's like somebody that I really know, it's really personal, or you pay me, to be honest. But the reason I don't really give music advice is because I feel like the music business is so like, you know, everybody's got a way to get in. You know, there's really like no real set plan. You know, and a lot of it's like luck and who you know. You know, so, you know, always the advice that I do give people is that, you know, it's not really about the music that you make. It's about the work that you put in. And then how lucky you are. And it depends on what level of the music business you want to be in. If you want to get a record deal, that's different from just wanting to put an album on SoundCloud. If you want to put an album on SoundCloud, just record an album and put it out on SoundCloud. But if you're trying to get a record deal, or if you're trying to book shows, or if you're trying to do more kind of technical stuff, I kind of don't give advice on that to people, simply because, I mean, it's your career, and I don't want you blaming me. Oh, Lupe told me to do this, and it went wrong, and then, you know, you sitting outside my house with an axe trying to get revenge. So anyway, I don't really give advice about the music business per se, not anymore. And to all you rappers out there, I don't give advice about raps. I do, but I only do it in Sosa, Society of Spoken Art. So I only talk about rap with Sosa members. So if you want to kind of get my point of view on rap, like how you should rap, you know, things that I do and techniques and stuff that I use, that's the reason we started Sosa. So it could be more controlled and more confined. So if you want to learn about how I rap and how other, you know, potential prominent members of Sosa rap, then, you know, send in that application to Sosa, you know, Society of Spoken Art.org. We're picking our next apprentice class maybe next year. So that's that. But anyway, enough wasting time. SX, what's up, bro? I want to get into some of these questions that people sent in my DMs last time I asked you guys about Super Facts. And this edition of Super Facts is brought to you today by Lupe Fiasco BNP, at Lupe Fiasco BNP. That's the Instagram for my new TV show, Beaten Path, which comes out March 8th if you're in Southeast Asia, and soon after if you're anywhere else in the world. But if you're anywhere in like Thailand or Malaysia or Hong Kong or Singapore, Beaten Path comes out March 8th, Thursday at 9 p.m. on Kicks HD. Maybe 8 p.m. depending I think Singapore is 8 p.m. but if you're in Kuala Lumpur it's like 9 p.m. or something like that. If you're in Hong Kong I think it's 9 p.m. So March 8th, Beaten Path drops. If you're in Southeast Asia, all through there, Thailand, Vietnam, all that, check it out. And it's on Kicks or Kicks HD, depending on what you have. So, you know, check it out. So let's get into it, yeah? So we got like 3 questions for people that asked me on the DMs that I felt comfortable about asking or bringing up. And we're going to start with something easy. So the first question was from _Karna_, so _KRNA_, and he asked me to do a super fact about the importance of rest, REST, like getting sleep and stuff like that. there's so many different points of view and scientific studies on sleep and the importance of sleep. There's you could just, there's a whole book of just what different scientific opinions are about sleep. And there's some that say sleep is important, and then there's some that say sleep is kind of important, right? And then there's different people who talk about how long you should sleep versus how long you shouldn't sleep. There's people who bring in things like your circadian clock, like your body clock, and you should be in tune with that. There's people who talk about diurnal cycles, which is like night and day. Difference between nocturnal and diurnal, like what cycle should you be tapped into. There's certain studies that say all you really need is an hour and 30 minutes of sleep. The sleep cycle is like 90 minutes, and 90 minutes is enough for you to go through a complete cycle of sleep, and you should be good. And there's certain people that's like, man, you should sleep 8 hours a day, which is what our standard kind of thing is. And I think it's just important to really check the sources, and you know what you feel is important for you. I mean, there's everybody I think should get rest to a certain degree, but rest doesn't necessarily mean sleep. And sometimes sleep doesn't necessarily mean rest. Isn't that funky, right? Like if you getting like, you know, depending on the context in which you are sleeping. Well, let me take that back. Let me pull that back. Everybody should get rest, right? Sometimes rest doesn't necessarily mean sleeping. Sometimes it might mean taking a break, allowing your mind to get like clear, to take a step back from what you're doing, to give your body a chance to kind of realign itself, or you know, to stretch a little bit, or to take a breath, especially at work. It's good to rest when you're at work, not necessarily sleep, but rest and give your body a chance to rest. If you've been typing all day, it's good to give your hands a chance to rest. If you've been walking around all day, it's good to give your feet a rest. And say, why is that important? It's like, because it feels good. And it you know, feeling good is part of what life is all about. And if you're just constantly throwing yourself at the grindstone, constantly not giving you a chance to step back and even see what you've been doing or what you're responsible for creating, that can be like a reverse effect, because you won't really take into consideration or take a chance to step back and see the rewards of your labor or the fruits of your labor. So rest is included in that. Sometimes it's good to just step back and just like look at what you've accomplished, right? And then go right back to work. You feel me? But in terms of like scientific, and if we talk about rest and sleep, I mean, it's all type of studies. And one person has a super fact, another person has a super fact, another person has an ultra fact. But at the end of the day, I think like everything else on this planet is what you are, you know, capable of doing, and what personally needs to happen in your life and the type of life you lead, should really determine, you know, the amount of rest that you're allowing yourself to get, and not even allowing the amount of rest that you're taking, that you're like, this, I'm going to use this time and rest properly, which means like turning off your phone, you know, getting in that sensory deprivation space, turning off the TV so you can really, really get the proper sleep, and if not the proper sleep, the proper rest that you can have so you can be more productive, you know. Everything takes a break in nature. Lions don't hunt all the time. They take a break. Even the clouds take a break. It don't rain all the time. So everything has to, you know, replenish itself and refresh itself. And just like we do. That's why we had lunch breaks and all that other good stuff. So that was from K. I hope that was a super fact for KRNA. In terms of like, what is the importance of rest? I mean, it's important. It's as important as you make it, or as important as you need it to be in your life, in your personal circumstances. All right. So that's that one. The next one, which is a little, it's a little weird. This one came from our Instagram follower by the name of Then She Was Like _bruh. Really good Instagram name right there. Then She Was Like _bruh. Right. And his question was Nefertiti Caucasian? What? Was Nefertiti a Caucasian? Was she a white person? And it's super interesting because if y'all ain't see, there was I think it was on the Today Show, they did like a reveal of like this reconstructed, more anatomically correct, supposedly anatomically correct version of Nefertiti. if y'all don't know, there's a real famous bust, an old school bust. A bust is like a statue, but just from like the chest up. For y'all that don't know, that's what a bust is, from the chest up. So just the head, the neck, and the whole thing. There's this real famous statue bust of Nefertiti from before, and it was a little bit damaged. I'm actually looking at it right now on the interweb. Yeah, and it says the bust of Nefertiti from the Egyptian Museum in Berlin or something like that. And I don't really have too much information on this bust. But anyway, if you Google it, you'll see one of her eyes is missing, which is what kind of sets it apart. There's an eye missing. She had a real slender neck, and it really just shows her shoulders and her neck, and then her headpiece, and then the snake. Well, I think that would be a snake, which would have been on her hat, is missing as well. But that's like the most famous. When you think of Nefertiti, that's the statue that you see. And then so I guess they came up with a new one. And this new version of the statue, people kind of took it to be more like they were trying to whitewash the history. And they had this other Nefertiti, which was supposedly with, done with all this new technology and these new kind of like just a whole like it was a reconstruction process. And for y'all that don't know, Nefertiti was supposedly King Tut's mother, and she was married to Akhenaten, some Egyptian pharaoh. So if you know King Tut, the prince with all the king with all the gold, who had the great sarcophagus and the whole thing. But there's a whole myth and theory about that. Nefertiti is supposedly King Tut's mother. So what do we got to say about this? Now, was Nefertiti white? I don't know. To be honest, was she Caucasian? I have no idea. She was supposedly born or existed between the years 1370 to 1330 BC. So that was a long time ago. I was not born back then, so I don't know. And nobody else on the planet right now was born either, so they don't know for sure. They just going off best guesses and estimate and swag, which is scientific wild ass guesses. But what I can say about Egypt, because this opens up a bigger conversation about Egyptian history, the Arabization of Egyptian history, the Africanization of history, the Europeanization of Egyptian history, how that relates to Nubia and all these other places where there were legitimate black pharaohs and all this other stuff, and then archaeology techniques, everything. So Egypt has been around for a long time. I mean, Egypt has been around for a very, very long time. And it has changed faces and hands and points of view and religions, probably incalculable amount of times, right? The funny part about Egypt is really close to not only Asia, but it's also really close to Europe. And it's at the top of Africa. So it's above the Sahara Desert. So it's in the north of Africa, for y'all that don't know where Egypt is. But Egypt, just because of where it has always been like a point of like cross-culturalization, all these different people coming in from different places. It's been conquered mad times, unconquered, reconquered. Whole dynasties have kind of fell to the wayside. There's still so many mysteries about Egypt, what the pyramids were actually used for, what the Sphinx actually represented, who were these pharaohs, like how was business conducted. There's so much mystery about what, who, where, etc. Egypt is and what it is, even to this day. So even the most highly trained, highly thoughtful, most well-armed scientists are still at the least, are super informed, but at the most, I mean, it's still guesses. Like, people don't know. There's a whole history of like, there's parts of Egypt that are underneath modern cities, that have yet to be excavated. So if you think like Rome or something like that, they say Rome is in layers, and the further you go down, you just find more and more cities. So it's still parts of Egypt that I'm sure have probably been lost to the desert, that people have never found and probably never will find. It's just the nature of what it is. It's a very big place. But the point I want to kind of focus on, the super fact of that is that a lot of Egypt's history has been rewritten on both sides of the fence. It's been whitewashed, it's been blackwashed, it's been Europeanized, it's been Africanized, it's been Arabized, it's been demonized, it's been angelized, it's been religiousized. I mean, so much has been pointed at Egypt, and everybody looks at Egypt as being like this jewel, and whoever can own Egypt somehow magically owns the world. You know, like who controls the narrative of Egypt is the people who somehow have the deepest connection. And it's funny because humans always try and like, yeah, as just us, period. This is just what we do. We always just want to try and be first. You know, like we're first. And somehow us being first means what? You know, to give it like an example, there's people who get like a modern example. People want to win a Super Bowl, right? Or people want gold medals at the Olympics, right? Like they want that NBA ring, right? They want to win the championships. They want to be first. But you can go to different pawn shops around the country and you can find a original, authentic Olympic gold medal, right? Or a Super Bowl ring, a real Super Bowl ring. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that being first only lasts for a period of time. You can use it for so much. But I mean, like, if it's a trophy to be gotten from it, you know, if you take it to something that we can all relate to, wanting to be the best Olympian in the world or the best football player in the world, but then you turn around and you see people just as easily pawn it off because they need the money for other things, right? So to relate that back to like the history of Egypt, I think you have to ask yourself, like, what's the importance if Nefertiti is Caucasian or if she's black? You know, like, what does that mean for you? How does that influence or affect your life, right? Another thing that happened with Egypt, and what we have to really be careful about, is a lot of our education from Egypt, when I say us, I mean us as a society, has came through like movies, right? So even a lot of the reactions that we have to Egypt came from like a film, right? One of the films that was like a big thing about Egypt was what was the story of Moses, that had Charlton Heston as Moses, I think. I forgot what the name of what that movie is. Somebody know what the movie is. Let me know what it is. But it's an old school film. But they show Egypt, and everybody there is white. You know, and that was kind of like a big thing in Hollywood, where a lot of Hollywood whitewashes things. And so you get your history. You got to understand that, you know, the movie industry in America is catered toward the largest population, and at the time it was white folks. So white folks had to relate. They wanted to see themselves on screen just like we want to see ourselves on screen. Hence why I'm going to see Black Panther tonight. Yeah. No, but there's a piece to that in saying that, you know, we have to even be more careful of how we got introduced to Egypt. The Ten Commandments is the name of the movie. The Ten Commandments. Thank y'all. Appreciate that. The illest scene ever when he come down from the mountain, right? When Moses come down from the mountain in his hair, he go up there with the messed up fade, and he come down after he see the face of God, and he got the super S curl going. Best movie moment of all time, the funniest thing ever. If you could Google it or YouTube, try and get that moment where Moses come down from the mountain and the look in his face and his hair, like he just got the super perm. But again, be very careful about where you get your question where you got your history from, you know, and what was the foundation of your opinions, and then why that's important to you. You know, I think that's the super fact and all that. Why is this important? You know, if why is you understanding Nefertiti important to you in your life? You know, and it's not to downplay it, but it's a way to, if you really upset about white people or this white archaeologist reconstructing, you know, Nefertiti's bust, because that's basically what he did, reconstructing her bust and giving it features that you feel may be white or black or not white or whatever it is. Why is that important? At the end of the day, you know, how does that affect your daily life, et cetera, et cetera? And it's not a question where it's like, oh, that's to get away or distract from what people did or what people are doing when it comes to appropriating or whitewashing or blackwashing or Chinese washing or whatever history. You know, it gives you a better kind of runway before you get too gone into this thing, which at the end of the day, from my point of view, it doesn't really matter if she was black or white, you know, or if she was brown. She might not even have existed in the way that we think she did. She might not even be King Tut's mom. There's so much hearsay and back and forth about King Tut in and of himself, if he was 15, I mean, how much did he really get rocking? Some of them even say that some of the gold and stuff wasn't even his. Like, some of that stuff was taken from another pharaoh, because these pharaohs were all about going and, you know, plundering other kingdoms. It wasn't like all like super nice guys and everybody got along and bowed down to. People had massive disagreements about, should there be one God? Should there be more gods? Who was the most important God? Should we be worshiping the sun god? Should we be worshiping the god of the underworld? Like, it was all these different things. So even in Egyptian times, and it was this is a dynasty in the kingdom that lasted for thousands of years, not hundreds, like we, not decades or weeks like we used to, thousands. They even were unreconciled about their social, you know, kind of narratives and their religious narratives, and who was who and who was important and who wasn't, right? So it's just, you know, don't get into, I don't say you do what you want, but just be careful when you start to get into these kind of narratives that even from the onset of what you're even trying to have a narrative about isn't even really settled in and of itself, and it'll never get settled. Never. You're never going to nail down what Egypt was and what it is. You're always just going to put another layer on top of a layer on top of another layer. But at the end of the day, it's about what you want, what you're trying to get out of it, right? What's next? Yeah, so was Nefertiti Caucasian? Super fact? I don't know. Do you know? No. Does this guy know? No. Did anybody see Nefertiti? No. Is anybody alive on the planet Earth right now old enough to have ever even came into contact with anybody who came into contact with Nefertiti? No. Absolutely not. The Egyptian history is unwritten. It's a swirling whirlwind of all these different points of view. And that's just the super fact of that, right? So moving on from that, it is a nice bust though. It actually looks really pretty cool and realistic. But you know, who knows? And from my point of view, this bust does not look white. That does not look like a white woman. So I don't know what people are getting that she looks like a white woman. That this person on this bust does not look white. She look mixed though. Ooh, shout out to the mixed girls. Ooh, them pretty big head mixed girls. All right, so where we at? All right, so the last one we're gonna do is a question that came from XO_Lena Simone. Good play on words from Nina Simone. Shout out to you. So shout out to XO_Lena Simone, and she asks a question. She says, as an artist, what are the pros and cons of being socially aware, and what boundaries do you set on yourself with what you reveal to the public? So, I mean, there's definitely cons, right, to being socially aware, right? And we could say, you could throw in conscious, you can throw in all these things to be socially aware, but it's two sides to both stories. It's you know, it's two sides to the story, right? Because you could be socially aware on things that you agree with, and those are the things that you want to put out, but you can also be socially aware of things that are, you know, negative, or things that you don't agree with. So I think there's you know, being aware of things, I don't think there is a pro or a con to it. I think that's just naturally. But I think what she might be getting at is like what, you know, like politically maybe, right? Or, you know, because all social ain't bad. I mean, society is, you know, how people get along. Is going to IHOP. It's just basic things. Politics is where you get a little funky. But anyway, I'll take a crack at it. So like super facts, the cons of being like socially aware in a general sense is like you have the potential to disrupt somebody's narrative. You know, most people just want to be agreed with, no matter who you are. Most people, I say most, not all, but most, they want to be agreed with, right? They want their point of view to be the real point of view. They want their story to be kind of recognized and reinforced. And when they don't get that is when you get like disagreements or tension or arguments. But if you just agree with somebody all the time, you know, they're going to be somewhat cool. You know, you got other folks who are like contrarians who just disagree just for the sake of argument. But for the most part, most people that you'll come in contact with want to be kind of agreed with. You know, they like to be challenged maybe, but more like not challenged on their core fundamental beliefs. But, you know, they'll play the argument game and, you know, do the back and forth kind of Jeopardy. You know, let's just argue a point for the sake of the intellectual stimulation. But when it comes down to core fundamental beliefs, most people don't want to be challenged on their beliefs, right? And when you're socially aware and when you're aware of the surroundings that they may or may not be aware of, or you have a deeper relationship or understanding to something specifically, meaning that you have a knowledge of things that they may not be aware of. And I'm not talking about like conspiracy theories. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about like, you know, there's a barn in the middle of the forest that is really a nuclear website with that. I'm not talking about that, or flat earth. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about like, you know how companies are ran in real life because you know a bunch of CEOs, right? So you really know how people get jobs. So you can tell people like, man, this is how it really goes down. And they're thinking like, oh, all I have to do is go to college and get a degree, and then I can go get I just put in my thing and I'm gonna get a job, right? Most people know that's not how it works. So even stepping it down from like, I know a bunch of CEOs, you could be a person who's like, man, I work in HR, right? And there's HR departments which like they have a quota on like, man, we're not hiring people from this background, and we're not hiring people from that background. They can go through the whole process. They can do the applications. We call them in for interviews, but we really just doing that for show. And for some people, if you tell them that, even if it's another HR person that works in another company, they're not going to believe that, right? They're not aware that is how it can go down, right? They don't really, it doesn't agree with their kind of personal narrative, and it kind of disrupts it. So the cons of it is, people take offense to that. People get upset about that. People want to, you go into people become trolls, or people just whatever. Like, whenever you challenge somebody else's narrative, it's their fundamental narrative. I mean, you bound to kind of raise tensions and et cetera. But now on the pro side of that is that there's also the potential. It's two sides of the same coin. There's also the potential to really inform somebody, right, and get them better prepared for a situation, so they're fully prepared. Not that they're gonna agree with you, right, or do what you say, but just maybe they were unaware that was how it works. So you kind of putting them up on game about a certain situation. Well, you help them prepare a little bit more properly, be a little bit more again prepared to go out there and face that challenge, or go do this job, or go do this, or go do that. I think when it comes down to like being in a public space, I definitely think that so that's private. All that's kind of private. Having a private conversation with your friends, private at the barbershop, still somewhat private. When we talk about public and we talk about mass media, mass appeal, you got 100,000 followers on Instagram, or you got 1 million followers on Twitter, or 30 million followers on Facebook. I definitely think that there are certain narratives that shouldn't be revealed to the public. Not on that level. I think because that, at the end of the day, most people are just a number, right? On your YouTube page, or on your, they might have a profile pic or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a number. And you can't really get no full information about what that number is. Like, you don't know that person's personal points of view. You don't know that person's capabilities. You don't know those person's sensitivities, etc. So I think it's certain narratives that don't fit in a mainstream capacity. I talked about it earlier when I started this super fact session, is I don't really talk to people about the music business, about how they should maneuver through the music business, or what type of music they should make. We created a thing like SOSA, Society of Spoken Art, so we can have a safe and trusted place of like-minded individuals who put in work to be a part of it. And then there's a safe space and a cone of silence to discuss those type of things. But there's certain things, like, I would never discuss that just on on like this, with just like a random rapper from a random question or a random musician or something like that. I think because the potential of like an innocent bystander, like hearing something and still feeling like, yo, this is, yo, Lupe gave me some bad advice, or he's critiquing the music, or he's doing this, or he don't know, or this, that, and the third. It's just not really worth it. You know, it's better to just put yourself and your like-minded friends or other group of non-like-minded people, and y'all do a private kind of thing, and then talk about the things, you know, because at least you know everybody's sensitivities. You know anybody gonna fly off the handle or do nothing crazy. But yeah, I think there's certain narratives, social, political, military, all type of things that the public just ain't ready for, you know. And I was fortunate enough to, through the music business and through a bunch of my connections, to see a lot of things on all different sides of the world and all different sides of the fence, from huge business to government to military to just all the whole gambit of things. And a lot of that stuff I don't share. You know, some of the stuff I don't share in my music because I don't think music is the place. I think it's too big of just kind of like a blind kind of carpet bomb, because you don't know who's listening to what, how they're going to be influenced by it. And I try to be as careful as I can with the people that I talk to and the things I talk to them about. So, I mean, yeah, I think there's certain things that I think there's certain things that I'm not ready for. You know, certain places where it's like, I don't want to go there because I don't think that I'm ready for that particular conversation or that particular thing. So I think that, you know, it's the same thing for in general. So the boundaries that you set on, you know, what I reveal to the public or what I think you should reveal to the public is, you know, what you feel comfortable, not with sharing, but what you feel comfortable with, the type of response that you're going to get and the consequences for your actions, right? So I hope that answers your question. XO Lena Simone, XO_ Lena Simone, with super facts. So that's it. I was only going to do 3. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. I'm finna go see Black Panther. Again, this session of Super Facts is brought to you by Lupe Fiasco, BNP, the new home of Beaten Path. Brought to you by Studio SV, which is also one of my companies. Shout out to Bonnie Chan Wu, my business partner. It's my new TV show. It's called Beaten Path. It drops in Southeast Asia on Kicks Asia. So if you have Kicks or Kicks HD, it comes out March 8th at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. depending on what time zone you're in. So in Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Singapore, all up through Southeast Asia. You get to check out the show March 8th on Kicks HD. Here in the States, we'll let y'all guys know really soon where you're going to be able to check it out on the States. So, but stay tuned in to Lupe Fiasco at BNP on Instagram, Twitter, and the Facebook, where you can get those updates and those behind the scenes. So, again, hope you enjoyed the Super Fact, this session. If you're interested in getting my point of view on a particular issue, hit me in the DMs or hit me in the comment section of this. I'm going to leave it up, but mostly just hit me in the DMs, and please put your hashtag, like hashtag superfact, so I know what it is, because I get a bunch of DMs. So if you put hashtag superfacts, it'll help me find it a little bit easier, and then I can hopefully answer or give my point of view on your particular issue that you have in mind. You feel me? Nothing's really off topic, but like I said again, if it really, when it comes down to music advice and music business advice, I don't really do that. If you're a rapper and you're interested in getting some advice on your work or my work more personally, I cordially invite you to try and join SOSA, the Society of Spoken Art. You can go to societyofspokenart.org and fill out an application and try and go through that process to hopefully be a part of the next apprentice class of SOSA. And that's really it. Shout out to Von Beats. What's up, bro? Shout out to my man SX. Shout out to all the homies that's checking in, and shout out to everybody that's going to see Black Panther tonight. Tell me what you think when y'all see the junk on the DMs, cause I'm gonna keep my opinions to myself, cause y'all not ready for the truth. You feel me? What else? Anything else? That's it. Everybody good? Solid go. I will be coming to Sweden. I got a bunch of shows coming up, so make sure you stay tuned in to the Twitter page or lupefiasco.com, where we update all the shows. I got a show coming up in Asheville I think it's Asheville, Virginia, Asheville, VA, and then or Lynchburg, VA, I think, or North Carolina. Anyway, I got a show coming up in North Carolina and a show coming up in Virginia, and then I also got a show coming up in Honolulu in Hawaii, March 24th at the end of March. So tune in and come check me out live, lupefiasco.com. Yeah, and that's it. Shout out to everybody who came out and rocked with us in Miami this weekend, or last weekend at Rockwell and at Live. Appreciate y'all coming out and rock with us. Had super fun. Hope you had fun too. We might be doing a lot more of those little club dates, so just stay tuned to that as well. And what else? Is that it? Hey Veronica, what's up, baby girl? That's it. All right, appreciate y'all. Peace and much love to y'all. Have fun, be safe. This has been another edition. Super Facts!